if I could just add, thank you, Dawn, just bringing you back, when we reviewed like our district report card, our time with non-disabled peers number was not where we felt it should be. Was one reason, but it's just the best practice to have our special education learners in the regular ed class with their peers as much as possible, receiving that high quality tier 1 instruction. And co-teaching is hard and it takes a lot of training, but when it's done well, it's really powerful. So we're excited about the training that we've been receiving.
Awesome.
Great. And my second question, I'm not sure if it can be answered tonight, especially since not everyone is here, but maybe it could be answered soon. Testing and diagnostics mid-year is happening. I'm wondering if we can be reminded of the big takeaways from previous testing and how that translates into what we're hoping to see from the results of this testing.
Data-wise, like performance takeaways?
I would assume it might be that, but whatever the big takeaway was, or big takeaways were from the previous one. I mean,
Okay.
So big rocks, whatever the big rocks are.
I'm trying to remind myself of where we were, where we are now, where we're hoping to head. So,
Got it.
thanks. Yes.
Again, it's at the middle school. I don't get over there much anymore since the kids are done there, but when I walked in for a board meeting the other day, I was stopped by the mural between the doors. Kudos to Miss Marino's WIN class. I think it's a great mural that promotes the theme, our Choose Love theme for mental health. So it was really nice.
And if I'm not
mural.
mistaken, Mr. Johnson, isn't it being highlighted by like Choose Love? Like,
Yeah, they have the Choose Love movement website has a blog, like a blog link to it, kind of like a newsletter piece. And it's going to be, I haven't seen it posted. They said they were going to, it hasn't popped up yet, but they did say they were going to put it on there.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
We're working on a second mural. And maybe we'll bring the whole crew here to meet you guys.
Awesome.
Yay.
I know they had fun doing it. Colvin was one of them. He talked all about it.
That's fantastic.
Awesome. Moving on to the report of the superintendent.
All right, so I know Mr. Apicilli and Mrs. Mike didn't come up with to add to their report, but they are on stage now. I'd like them to come up. We're going to talk a little bit about our NEAS visit, which happened back in October, but we received a letter from NEAS right before we went on our winter break, basically recapping and providing more of a formal report from that visit. Not to steal any of the thunder that Mr. Apicilli and Mrs. Mike will share out, but in general, they highlighted how impressed they were with their visit. Many of the programs and services received commendations. For example, opportunities for students to connect with adults and peers to support social, emotional, and physical well-being. Opportunities for students to participate in a wide range of courses and programs, including college credit courses, ag ed, and CTE program. And then, I'm just picking from this long list, a senior project with explicit connections made to the portrait of a graduate. So there are some timelines and recommendations and things that the high school team has been working hard on. So I can turn it over to Mr. Apicilli and Mrs. Mike, and they can guide you through a little bit more detail.
So we wanted to make sure everyone got a copy of the letter that was sent to us on the 17th. And it's always such a great experience when people from the outside come in and take a look at what you're trying to do. And again, they highlighted a lot of the things that, they think that we're doing really well. And, it was great to hear. But they also gave us some things that they'd like us to work on. 4 of the 5 priority areas in here were ones that we picked out. And we said, these are things that we know we have to work and improve on. They agreed. They said, these are things, we agree you should be working on those. And they gave us a 5th one to work on as well. One of the things that I wish you had gone one more further, Andy, because on the list of accommodations, because one of the things I thought was really cool that they pointed out to us was the extensive course offerings for a size of the school which accommodates the needs of our students. So, when we come before and we're trying to get like courses added that benefit our students, thank you for allowing us to add those programs and offerings for our students. They were really impressed by that. Do you want to just go back and forth? I'll start with one, you do two? Okay. So priority area 1, the school will revise its MTSS process and procedures to ensure high standards for all student learning, equity, and appropriate support is in place by January 2025. January 2025. But, we want you to know that this was something that we put in place at the beginning of this school year. We revamped the way that we're trying to support our students. We have regular meetings. We have forms and ways to track students. And it was, this is something that a lot of high schools really struggle with. But we're doing what we can, and there's even like our little sign on the column there. We track, kids, like you're in the green. If you're still if you haven't made any improvements and you move up to yellow, then you can't wear those little things in your ears, and everything is focused on your work. And we have like quiet rooms for them to work in where we take them from their maybe loud study hall with 20, 30 kids, and now they're in a quieter area just getting their work done. So we have made a lot of progress in that area.
Yeah. And we meet every other week to take a look at any kids that might be failing or behavior issues or absentees every other week. And I did include a little evaluation cycle diagram in there in case you want to take a look at it. The other area that we mutually agreed upon is priority area number 2, which is the curriculum revision comment format. We were pretty far along in the process, but we revised it and we wrote it. And again, with curriculum, as you know, we constantly revise it. Every year you go and you find out what worked, what didn't work, and you tweak it a little bit for the next time around. So we worked on this during our PLC time. Teachers really enjoy that time to collaborate with each other, share rubrics, share projects, do all of that kind of thing. And basically, we were able to give them some time to write and revise and reflect on the curriculum. Yep.
I didn't want to cut you off.
That's okay.
Okay. So the next priority area 3, if you remember, we were at the end of our district improvement plan when they came. So this was put in there because we were getting ready to develop the district plan, and then we used the district plan to help guide our plan. So this was done over the summer, and I also included on here we had a faculty meeting, a professional development day on last Friday, and we had one of our teachers as their goal was going out and researching how other districts, other high schools are using portfolios to assess students as they progress through the portrait of a graduate. So how, what they're doing in 9th grade, 10th grade, and 11th grade, we got accommodation for what we do with our 12th graders. Now it's pushing that down all the way to freshman year. So we had a great presentation. We had great discussion on Friday about this. So this is ongoing, but we're way ahead of where we were when they came out.
Area 4, you want this, is everything we're doing on those career pathways. We are meeting again with some people from EB. I think it's Thursday.
Tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So we have had numerous discussions. Andy's very much involved. Rita, all of us are involved on expanding our welding pathway, but we're also kind of dabbling in other areas, perhaps an educational pathway for our teachers and paraeducated professionals if they want to do that in the future. And again, we are moving definitely in this way.
And like at the bottom there, partnering with Ready CT. Last year, we had our CNA program, it was the first year we ran that. Great success, all 4 kids, earned their certificates. This year, Ready CT is coming in, and they're doing some work with our students in the CNA program on resumes, professional resumes, cover letters, interview skills. They're actually doing CPR with them too. So, really working with them to prepare them for, interviews if they're going to use the CNA, but also just great skills to have, regardless of where you go. Priority area number 5, they wanted to talk about active learning. Now, you're going to say, when they came out, they didn't see active learning. When they came out, they observed 1 period because that was all the time they had. The collaborative conference, which is what happened when the people from NEAS came here, is an abbreviated version of the process. They were only here for like 2 days, and they had to do an incredible amount of work in those 2 days. So they went out for 1 period. So what they said is they wanted to see, when they come back, more examples of that. So one of the things we've been doing with the new evaluation, model that we're doing, the CCT Domain 3 is all about like active learning. And almost every single one of our teachers selected that as part of their goal. So when you look at our goal document, you're going to see everyone is saying, planning for active instruction. That's what their goal is for this year. Instructing in an active way to get kids involved, assessing in an active way. You're going to see those words in all of their goal documents, which was really cool. And again, Rita's doing a fantastic job of planning out professional development to help teachers. Even the co-teaching, getting more people involved in the classroom to help students. It's been a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Jason. Any questions from the board?
If you want to know, they will be coming back in a much larger group in 2026, March of 2026. So we'll probably, be asking you guys to come back in and, sit with them again. And thank you to everyone who did when they came out.
I just had a quick question about the priority 4, I think it was.
Mhm.
Where you talked about the EB and the CNA and that type of thing. I feel, it says create advisory committees. So what do those look like?
So we have one right now for ag. So the advisory committee is made up of people in that industry that kind of guide you and tell you what students need in those fields. We've always had, our foods teacher, Mrs. Kisalika. She always has people from like Johnson and Wales and, that food industry coming in and talking to students, making things in front of them, talking about what you would need to be a chef somewhere, like things like that. Our business teacher and, the foods teacher, they've done some field trips like Money Madness. They go out to the Hartford Yard Goats and meet their business and marketing people just to get a sense of what is out there and what's required of students. So that's kind of what they're looking for.
So are there meetings? Do they have committee meetings?
So our
periodic?
ag department, that has to be a part, when we get evaluated, our ag program gets evaluated, that's one of the things that, we have to have happen. This will be something that we're gonna try and get more regularly and get people to sit in with those other CTE areas, the business, tech ed. Tech ed has had a lot of discussions already, and, not even just with EB, there's a smaller vendor for electric boat that came out, Collins and Jewel, they're in, Basra, came out to talk to us too. So what that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring them in so that they can tell us what do our kids need? And, you know, some of the interesting things that Collins and Jewell said, they were telling us they have to teach their new employees how to leave work. Like if you decide that this is not for you, how do you leave in a way that if somebody contacts them, they're going to give you a good, you know, recommendation. You know, making sure you do like the 2 weeks, make sure you have a good letter explaining why, and, you know, so that was interesting to hear. You know, like maybe that's something we need to do here to prepare our students too. It was just it's good food for thought when you talk with these people.
Yeah. The reason I asked, I think that those are all fantastic, like especially the ag, committee, bringing in like some of the local farmers around would be fantastic for them to be involved in the school and for us to also be reaching out to the community, even in the other areas, reaching out to some parents to see, what expertise they can kind of bring in, and hosting some of those committee meetings might be beneficial to everyone, not just the school,
And I agree. One of the things that our school improvement team is convening sometime within the next couple of days with the exams, trying to figure out some free time in the afternoon. But we want to try and put together our kind of like a career fair where we bring in, and this is for like everything. And we haven't done it in a couple of years, and we try to do it like almost every other year, so that we can always get, like a different, make sure everybody gets to be a part of this at least twice. So we're talking about bringing that back again, and we had a great turnout with support from our parents, but also like others, parents reach out to people they know to get them in.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so the next thing I just wanted to share with you all, I did give some pamphlets and handouts to Dawn, is the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendent legislative proposals. You don't have them in front of you now. She has them here for you if you're interested. But I thought that it'd be nice for you to have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on at the state level from this superintendent group as we're moving forward with our own local budget. So the kind of tagline is elevate, fund, and improve. So they want to elevate the education profession, and a lot of that is working to have livable wages and actually going to the state to seeing what they might be able to do to support local municipalities, as we're finding it's very difficult to keep up with the increases that are coming to us, whether that's through insurance or just contracts or other costs associated with running a school. They're working to come up with a workforce plan that addresses educator shortages and recruitment trends. And you may have heard something, the governor talking about apprenticeships, trying to get students into school so they can learn from veteran teachers and then ultimately kind of step into that role. You also hopefully remember, as I was presenting, the increasing educator diversity plan that's been done at the state level. So it's good to see there's coordinated efforts from things that the governor is saying, what our superintendent committees are putting forward to the legislators. So hopefully we'll see some movement in elevating the education profession. The next part is funding and finance. They're working to revise the educator cost sharing formula, which has been a nightmare for people to understand. It's also been negatively impacting some districts, so they're working hard to have hold harmless stuff as the formula is reworked. They also want to fully fund the excess cost funding. That would be great. These things aren't going to happen overnight. We'll be lucky if some of these things happen this session, but at least they're on the table as talking points. And then the third kind of bucket there when they're talking about improving is really focused on supporting early childhood education, which if you think about what we're doing here in Lebanon, it's good to know that, we already have part day classes. We have a full day, our school day classroom now. So we're moving in the direction of trying to offer as comprehensive an early childhood education program as we could. There's also talk about creating and maintaining high quality educational programs either regionally or within school districts, such as our scales, our seals, our pass academy. So again, I think we are definitely on the right track to what some of these proposals and talking points with the legislators are. But it would be obviously very nice to get more support from the state level. So just wanted you to be aware of those legislative proposals and kind of highlight some of the things we're doing in our district. Any questions about those things? All right, so then we can move on to another exciting opportunity here in Lebanon that was highlighted in the administrative reports. We are lucky to be part of an artificial intelligence pilot program at the state level. Before we kind of get into those things, I do want to highlight Mr. Johnson's efforts. This was something that was put out, in one of the Friday emails from the state at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and boom, Chad's like, what do we got to do? So I said, hey, if I actually was not going to put this on anyone's plate because there's so much going on, he took it upon himself to fill out the application, kind of worked with me to submit it, and we're one of only 5 districts, right? 7 districts in the state that have been awarded this opportunity. So we had an initial meeting to kind of go over the purpose, the goals, the participant commitments, the AI tools, the vendor list, the timeline. So I'll dive into that a little bit deeper with you so you have a better understanding, and then, Chad, please piggyback off of anything that I share. So first, this is guided by legislation. So there's a Public Act 24-151, which says that during this 24-25 school year, the state will administer an artificial intelligence education tool pilot program. And under such pilot program, the Commissioner of Education shall award a grant to assist boards in implementing an existing artificial intelligence tool selected by the Commissioner that will be used by educators and students in the classroom. There's also another part that states that such artificial intelligence tools shall comply with laws governing the use of artificial intelligence and protection of student data and privacy. So that was important to us too. Not only is this an exciting opportunity, but we wanted to make sure it was safe and well vetted, and it has proven to be. So the purpose, primary goal is to measure the impact of AI integration on classroom planning for instruction, teaching and learning, and student learning outcomes aligned with identified AI knowledge, skills, disposition, and workforce readiness skills. So we've had some conversation as an administrative team, and we've worked specifically in the middle school. They have building goals around this, and about how do we embrace this type of technology that can be so powerful for our teachers and our learners, but how can we do so in a thoughtful and safe way, and how can we make our teachers feel supported, and how can we prepare our students to use it successfully. So this AI pilot opportunity really dovetails nicely to Mr. Johnson's building goals and fits with our district's strategic plan. So in the first meeting, we had the participant commitments. So one of the things we have to do is convene a district-wide or school-based team. Chad and I have had an initial conversation about who those members will be. I don't know that he's even had an opportunity to talk with them, so I don't want to kind of put it out there in the public. We had to identify an implementation lead. That will be Chad. We had to select an AI partner. Now, we haven't done that. So there's going to be another meeting on the 22nd of this month. They're going to go over the vendor list a little bit more. Chad's group at the middle school has been working Magic School AI, pretty significant efforts in that area. So the thing we're grappling with is, do we select that vendor, which is on the list, and really go deeper into that one? Or do we look for something else that we haven't really worked with yet, and now we have multiple things that we can be working with? So that's something that Chad and the pilot team will have to consider. Then we get into the budget. So they revealed at this initial meeting that the grant award is between $50,000 and $100,000. We don't know what we got yet. I actually emailed the lead at the State Department to see if we could know what we're getting and where would that be managed. I talked to Martha. Is that going to be in our EGMS system, or is that going to be somewhere else? That is going to add a layer to Martha's role and to Chad's role. How do we provide oversight to this budget? But we felt it was an opportunity we couldn't turn down. And then from there, we'll work to allocate resources and schedule time to support this. and then be able to share data with you and with the state of, you know, kind of how this is going. Chad, I don't know if there's anything you feel that you want to elaborate on or that I may have missed.
I mean, one of the exciting but nerve-wracking things in terms of the grant itself is that it needs to be spent by end of the school year. So
This school year?
Yeah.
30th.
I don't even know how much they have yet.
You can do it.
Sure. Stipends for everyone.
Yeah, and that, speaking of the timeline, so that meeting on January 22nd is to kind of go over those tools, and then there's another meeting which is more of a professional development on digital citizenship and going over that model curriculum. Then in February is the initial training for the pilot. In March, they're looking for us to really get going with integration. Through April, they'll continue to support us and monitor it. In May, that's going to be the evaluation, and then June, the reflection. So it's going to happen like that. But again, something that we're excited to be a part of, one of only 7 districts in the state. And again, kudos to Chad for aggressively going after this.
I mean, if you're interested in doing your own exploration, you mentioned Magic School AI, which was the one that we selected to purchase back in the fall. And the teacher's been using extensively. School AI is another choice. That was probably our second choice that we were going to choose from in the fall that we did not, but that's another option. Third, one of these vendors is called Snorkel, which I was not familiar with, SNORKL. CK12 Foundation is one that I was familiar with, and then the 5th one is Cloud Navigator. So those are the 5 vendors that have been vetted by the State Department for us to choose from and partner up with on the 22nd.
Just out of curiosity, maybe a silly question, but is this available, so is this available in just certain classrooms, Chad? Is it available in all different, so it could be English, math, science, special education? I mean, is it all, none, some?
Yeah, so Magic School AI is being used extensively in every content area, and also there's so the best way I think to divide it up would be the teacher side, and then there's the student side. So there's a whole I think they're up to like 170 different tools for teachers to use, whether it be anything from take a reading, input it in, and level it to a 5th grade level, to taking entire lesson plans and putting them in and saying, gamify this lesson. There's so much that it can do from a teacher perspective. From a special education perspective, it can help write their IEP goals. And then there's a whole student side. So for example, I was demonstrating that the kids were working on, let's see, I'm trying to remember who the historical figure was. It was Martin Luther King Day coming up, so we'll just use him. So you can create a chat bot, and the chat bot will pretend that it's Martin Luther King Jr., and it will have a conversation with the student and kind of prompt the student to ask questions and learn a little bit about MLK, and then you can actually copy and take that transcript, place that on a piece of paper, and then the student can almost use it as like a guide for doing a little essay on Martin Luther King that pulled from this conversation that they actually had with the virtual Martin Luther King. So those are a few examples of how you would use it as like the teacher side and then the student side. For the grant itself, technically the grant is 7 and 8, I believe. Andy is who they're tailoring it.
Yeah, I thought I saw that it was open to 7 to 12, but we are focusing, obviously,
Right.
at the middle school.
Middle school. Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Thanks, Chad.
Yep.
Finance report is next. 2024-2025 budget. It starts in your board packet on page 39.
No significant concerns at this time, beyond the fact that we are still monitoring of costs, special ed costs, because they fluctuate daily.
Yeah, so if the board remembers, I did institute a freeze to a certain extent of our operating budget with our ordering. We're really looking at the most essential things that need to go through, the bills that need to be paid. I have told our administrative team, continue to bring things forward to me, but almost every single purchase now is not just a put it into the system. It's a conversation and a heads up like, hey, this requisition is going to be coming through. Here's what it's for. Okay. Or we're thinking about putting this requisition in. No, that's not going to go through right now. Let's hold off on that. So really taking a critical look at that, because we are mindful that with the tuition and transportation of the special education learners, that there is a potential for a deficit, and we want to make sure that we can support whatever that deficit is with current operating costs as much as possible. And we had talked about potential use for non-lapsing, and even above and beyond that, I've had conversations with the town, with the Board of Finance, giving them updates about where we stand, because if we can't cover it through our operating and non-lapsing, we may need to ask for an additional appropriation from them.
Questions, comments? Non-lapsing account.
There's been no additional expenses since the November report. The projected balance with the ongoing expenses is $73,962.72.
Any questions or comments? Nope. Thank you. Next is technology.
So I had Jock, and we'll follow obviously on the agenda with John. I wanted to make sure that you all had a good idea of where we stood with the use of the surplus funds from the town. These funds have been extremely helpful, as Jock will outline here, to get us back to where we want to be in terms of the refresh plan. Over the past years, Jacques has proposed requests in the capital budgeting process that haven't been fully realized because of the amount that we've been getting, and as a result, we've fallen behind on that refresh plan. With this surplus amount, we've made some great strides to catch up. So, Jacques, I'll let you go from there.
And because my surplus is so complicated with all different stuff, I put together a couple pages, one with outlining what I've done, a timeline of what's been done so far. And the second page is what funds I had left over in the surplus. And as Andy said, I mean, the reason it is so complicated with desktop, almost Promethean boards, is the reason that we haven't been able to catch up. So now we're trying to catch up in every aspect, including one was a lab at the LES elementary school that Jen uses.
So what I asked Jock to do to help kind of facilitate the presentation and that you'd have the information in front of you is just kind of outline specifically where those funds went, what the process looked like to acquire the devices. So everything's listed here, the desktops, Jock going through the waiver process, making the order, when it was delivered, etc. It goes right down the list, and on the back page, it gives you a breakdown of how much of those surplus funds were allocated to each of the specific catch-up plan segment. Any questions for Jacques?
We have already started distributing the desktops, and as it's written in here, we're going to be beginning Prometheans this week. We're just waiting on some brackets, and then we're going to try to do them as quick as we can get through them without, disturbing the classrooms, of course.
Jack, is every classroom getting a Promethean board?
Every classroom is getting a Promethean.
So not like band or specials or anything like that, just core classes?
Yes, core classes and some of the other classes, and that was, discussed with the principals where we will, and obviously we're going to have, if every room isn't covered and we decide we need one, we'll have capital hopefully next year, or maybe, hopefully the year after that. So we'll continue, as planned in our refresh plan. But this money was very well appreciated and puts us at a good place. And, I had mentioned Windows 11 was a concern to me because, 60 desktops was quite a bit of, I know 60 or 56 Prometheans was a big cost, but also 60 desktops would have put a real damper on my capital this year. And as you can see, we're hoping to use some of that to help out with the gym, which is still, I believe, network infrastructure.
Promethean boards going, I'm sorry, in all three schools or just the secondary schools?
Which was that?
The Promethean boards, are they going in all three schools?
They are going to all three. All three schools will be equipped, like we said, every classroom.
Thanks, Chuck.
I do have one question, Andy. Seeing how many of these we've gotten all at once,
Yep.
is there a discussion of, hopefully they don't all age out at the, they will age out at the same time, but like, of replacing them without having to do this again?
Yeah, so that, we haven't had this opportunity before. So we had to make a move and get us caught up, but that will be something that Jock will have to be mindful of as we continue to phase these devices out and get new ones in, because that would be a big cost if we had to do it all in 1 year.
Thank you.
That's a real good question. And if you recall, we had that when we went 1-to-1 because we wanted to get all the kids on that 1-to-1. So then they all phased out at the same time. So that's a very good question and something to definitely keep in mind. And hopefully the town will know that when I put in my capital requests.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. So we have facilities.
Yeah, so on a very similar line of thinking here, John's gonna talk about where we stand with the surplus monies that were dedicated to the access control system. I know he did talk a little bit about that in the facilities subcommittee. Nicole shared out, but John is here to kind of provide a little bit more detail.
Oh, yeah, so we, back when we first started talking about the long-term planning, this was something that I really wanted to do. The system we've used over the years is antiquated. It's a long, drawn-out process to change or program or add or delete cards. So what we did is preemptively, I went and I invited 3 vendors that I know did access control, brought them in, showed them our buildings, showed them our access points, and had them all draft up an estimate. I received those estimates and kind of went through them and kind of made sure that, all the scope of work was comparable to each other, to make sure that the price, they were kind of, not bidding, so it didn't go to RFP, but just make sure that it was all, kind of apples to apples. 2 of the contractors did not have, they did not do door hardware, so I actually reached out to our local locksmith who does all of our current door hardware, and had him quote some extra electric strikes and some things that had to be changed in order for the access control to work properly, removing a lot of the standalone things that are still battery operated. Once I went through, I did move forward with a waiver to Andy to select a vendor, because we had already gotten the 3 quotes, and I felt that, if we had prolonged it longer to go out to bid, it would have just drawn the process out even longer, and it was imperative that we got the system up and going with the funds that were allocated to us. I did choose a vendor that I'd like to use, and once I chose that vendor, I got a hold of the manufacturer, and he actually came down, the sales rep from the company, and gave a very extensive demonstration on how the system worked, right? Features that we can use, and it was mind-blowing. So what we can do with this access control now versus what we currently use. And we had originally talked about doing like an on-site server. After talking with Jacques and the sales rep, we actually decided to go cloud-based. It's actually going to increase our remote capabilities. With the local server, we'd be able to still remote in, but I'd have to VPN and use a computer. With the cloud-based, it's app-based on my phone. I can add users, remove users, remote unlock doors. So it just gave us a lot more flexibility with the cloud-based, and it also, they guarantee the backup, so if we lose data, they'll have it, and we can just download the data back to our devices. And that's pretty much in a nutshell. You know, I'm ready to sign the proposals based on an action item tonight, so.
Any questions for John about the access control? Thanks, John.
Thank you. Sarah?
I do just want to say, what Jacques and John just did for us, like updating on these projects, is very helpful. I think that a lot of times we kind of get wrapped up in like the new budget process and like, you know, the capital list, non-lapsing, all of that. And sometimes it's surplus projects, you know, kind of fall to the wayside. Not that you're falling to the wayside, just that our updates or our questioning of how it's going. So really appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Next is action items. So first, we are on letter of retirement. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the letter of retirement with regret.
Second.
Good to know. Motion by Brian, seconded by Danelle. Any conversation?
Well, Danelle got it first, it wasn't you.
She gave it to her.
It's quicker than.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. Next is act on 2025 graduation date. Andy.
Motion first.
Oh, yes, we need a motion first. I saw your hand go up.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Motion to approve the 2025 graduation date.
Second.
Everybody's speeding tonight.
Well, because I'm wondering, are we throwing out a date or are we waiting?
I know, I don't know what the
end?
date
I
is.
know.
Just approve the date.
So, if I could, so there are community members already asking, and Jay and I have talked about this, it seems like almost every year, right? So Jay took it upon himself to start asking other high school principals, like, where are you? What does your district do? So 9 schools that he was able to reach out to set the date at a BOE meeting in February, sometime February to April, like us, right? So 2 of them do it in February, 7 do it in April. So very similar to us. 1 school sets it in November at a BOE meeting, and 5 schools actually set it when they set the calendar for the previous year. So when we've adopted our calendar for 25-26, districts are now kind of going and doing that. So obviously there's legislation that it can't be before the 180th day. So as long as when we set the calendar, if we set it on the 180th day and then there's changes to the calendar, when we set it, we would be in line with legislation. So I know that your concern is, well, what if we have a couple snow days? When we set it, if we set it tonight, we would be setting it on a day that would have been at the 180th day already. So we would be fine in terms of legislation. It does help in terms of planning. So there's a lot of groups that do things for our graduating seniors. And the longer you wait, those things that you want to do for the graduating seniors are being booked up. And we live in an area, there's not many resources. So those things do get taken. And we do want to be mindful of people that are trying to arrange travel, etc. So I would be comfortable with setting the date now, even though there's inevitably going to be some snow days.
So can I just ask, just to clarify, if we set the date for like June 12th and we get 2 snow days, we can still have graduation on June 12th?
Yes.
Okay.
So the
And we would still have school
Right, for 2 more days.
those 2 days.
They graduate 2 days before.
Yes.
Gotcha.
With the seniors, the graduates,
They'd be welcome to come.
they would be welcome. Once they graduated, they
Take it week now.
No.
They'd be welcome.
Good way of putting it.
That's when seniors skip it after.
So can we throw out the date?
Well,
We've had a day, right? 1 day or 2 days so far this year?
1.
Just 1. And does this calendar reflect that or no?
Yes.
So right now, currently, the last day of school would be June 12th.
Thursday, June 12th.
think that's our day.
So the motion is by Sarah, seconded by Alexis to approve graduation date.
Should I amend my motion for June 12th?
To amend your motion.
I would like to amend my motion to make a motion to set the graduation date for June 12th, 2020.
Alexis as the second. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Next, we are on to act on purchase of access control upgrade. Is there a motion?
Motion to purchase the access control upgrade.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, second by Dawn. Any conversation?
So this is, sorry. So this is going forward using the waiver policy, correct?
Yes,
And
and with town surplus funds.
town surplus funds.
What is the dollar amount?
94,000 FASD and $9,167.60 for professional lock. So total of just over 100,000.
But we need a figure for the
Medium.
motion.
So, do you have the total?
I actually do not have it in front of me.
I'm pulling up our
I was gonna say, we had a conversation handy.
stuff, but let's see if it pulls up for me. Come on.
Calculator,
My phone's just not.
Just go up to 105,000.
no, because these aren't our money, this isn't
Oh,
our
it's
money.
town surplus,
It's not
gotcha.
our money.
Go for it, Brian.
Martha, are you able to get in to Tyler?
Is it up to 120,000, which is what?
The town did approve
Yeah,
up
the
to
town approved
120,000.
120,000. We're planning to come in below that and return the funds. So if you're comfortable to say up to 120,000 and then we bring you back the amount, we can do that.
So it's
But I want to make sure that what Nicole's notes say is accurate, Brian.
Right. I know the professional lock is accurate. I don't know about the FASD. I might have rounded that.
So the FASD is correct. Two things that do not actually represent in that quote are actually, I wanted to try to pay for one more year of the cloud service as to not affect next year's operating. And I also wanted to order 50 additional cards to what they quoted us, just to have as stock, because we do go through, between 25 and 30 cards a year with new staff, lost cards, things of that nature. So that dollar amount may go up a little bit. They didn't have an estimate to me for tonight's meeting, though, for those things included.
System.
Alexis.
Would be comfortable going up to the 125, knowing that we have,
120.
I'm sorry, 120, knowing that any unused is going to be returned. If something does pop up, I would rather us not be limited to 105, 110, when we know we have the 120.
That's a
I
good
agree
point.
with that, especially if John is gonna do a couple extra modifications to this.
Something might pop up, and then we're restricted when we have the funds to use them appropriately for this project.
Sarah.
I completely agree. I would actually even ask, is there a way for us to front load paying for a few years of that service, like a subscription? Sometimes if you do 3-5 years, and it's at a lesser fee than if you're paying yearly. And getting a hold of as many of those extra cards as you can, if we have the funding available designated for this purchase.
So there actually is that ability.
Mm-hmm.
I, in conversation with John, advised that we didn't do that. I didn't want there to be a perception that we were given 120, so we searched every single place we could to spend exactly 120. Like, we got the quotes for what we needed to install the new access control. We did plan to get the additional cards because of the turnover that we have of staff. And we did want to have at least a 1 year, because what good would it do to install it now and then not have the funds to pay for it in July? So we thought that was reasonable. I'm willing to have John go back out and, add that in if that's what the board thinks would be the most responsible way to use that $120,000.
So that was approved money from the,
There was a town meeting voted on it.
okay.
Yep.
Alexis.
So I guess it would depend on like what the terms were. So if a year is one price and we're saving thousands of dollars for a 3-year contract, to me, that would make sense.
They
But I
didn't.
don't know what the.
They didn't allude to that. They said it was about $3,000 a year. It's actually a per door price, and we actually get less per door per month for the more doors we have. They said it was about $3,000 a year for the cloud service.
Okay, so can I amend my motion? So I'm going to amend it to, motion to purchase the access control upgrade to up to $120,000 of the town surplus money. And if there is any left over, it gets returned back to the town.
John, you're the seconder, do you? Can you continue as the seconders on that?
Yeah.
Right. Any other discussion? I know, I said it multiple times and then I was like, is that even really a word? Now I'm just gonna say it all the time. Okay. Seconder.
I would just ask that we just have that specific dollar amount as soon as you can get it, maybe in like the Friday update, just so that the board knows.
For what, the additional year of cloud service and the extra cards?
Well,
For everything.
I think, yeah, for all of it.
Okay.
'Cause I do think that I think we are being responsible if we're looking ahead. This is a service we're going to continue to need, for 5 years. And I think that if it's a savings, like Alexis was saying, then I do think it's worth it, because we'd be saving the town money also,
Right. Yeah.
in the long term.
So I'm just wondering if we can approve what we're gonna buy and then wait for a price on the other part of it and see if can we go again on what we,
So the only thing would be that it would delay the process another month at minimum, because we'd have to wait till the next board meeting. And I don't know that they would be willing to go forward with like part of the plan while we wait.
And there are times when we are spot on and in the motion about the amount, and then there are other times where we do make this exception and say up to, and make it very clear with the intention of the remainder. Right.
And I think as long as there's full disclosure by you, Andy, in our weekly update to the rest of the board, then approving up to the 120 is appropriate now. So let's move it.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Now moving on to act on the 2025-2026.
Oh, we have one more. Number 4.
Cameras.
Oh, I totally skipped over that, sorry. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve non-lapsing funds for cameras at LMS. Need a cost, don't I?
We'll give it to you after.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
So if you remember, months ago, the board approved the use of non-lapsing funds to do a variety of projects within the district, one of which was to replace a camera compressor that was not working at the high school. That project came in less than what the board had approved for that particular project. So those funds are being returned to non-lapsing. There's camera issues at the middle school that we'd like to use the remainder of that previously approved amount. So we're not asking for any additional out of non-lapsing. It's just to kind of make that number whole to be able to do the work to pay for the work at the middle school. Martha, do you happen to have that figure that we were planning to use from non-lapsing if approved?
So they had actually approved up to 200,000 on a few different projects.
Two of those came in under that have been completed, one of which was the lighting, the auditorium lighting at the high school, as well as the compressors. The total that is left of the 200,000 that was originally approved is $4,778.82, and that's the amount that we're asking be allowed to be reallocated to complete this at the middle school.
Just for full disclosure on this, we chatted about it. We felt it was cleaner that that money comes back to non-lapsing because these were two different schools, and then we just re-voted on what is a safety and security need anyway. But no additional money. You know, it's changing hands, so to speak. But we felt it's much cleaner to come back to the full board and put the money back, take it back out for the right purpose, so.
So do I have to amend it for the exact, no, you just say keep it?
$4,700.
$1,778.
So noted.
Motion is to approve the remainder
Of the non-lapsing.
lapsing funds for cameras at LMS.
And yep.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Number 5, act on 2025-2026 capital budget request.
Motion to approve the 2025-26 capital budget requests.
Motion by Nicole, is there a second?
A second.
Yeah.
I would like somebody to double check them, but,
Yep.
the amounts, so facilities is 1,000, imagine that, 162,759.
Yep.
IT is 65,000.
Yep.
And athletics at 30,000.
Yes.
Yes.
Sarah?
What page is this?
These are extra handouts.
These were talked about at the finance subcommittee.
Need a copy.
For the subcommittee, you have them.
Do we have additional copies?
I do.
It's capitals.
Anybody has an extra, I can just look on.
Here, use mine.
Thank you.
Yep. This is capital. It's, technology, and this is, athletics, but we decided we were gonna bring that down to 30,000 instead of this.
30.
30, yep.
Same as we bought.
Can I have one?
The only one I don't have an extra copy is the athletics one.
Which is, we're doing the
It's
same
messy
amount.
anyway.
We're doing the same amount as we've been doing, so 30,000.
So in the far left corner, you see the numbers for the priority. On the first page, cross off 9, because we are only going to 6. 6 priorities. And so you'll see in the fiscal year 2025-26, down the column is the amount and the priorities, and on the last page has the total of 162,759. And the same is true for IT.
We're getting a new, utility vehicle, I noticed.
So,
Right.
yes, so the one we have is 23 years old and ish, and is folks are reluctant to further service it. I guess it seems to be dying at inappropriate times.
That's a very expensive vehicle.
John, could you maybe provide some more details on that?
It's a ATV.
It's like a gator.
Yeah, so we currently have it's a 2006 Polaris Ranger. I actually had a conversation today with Scranton Motors, who is a Polaris dealer. They have serviced it in the past, but the woman that I spoke to said that they really don't like servicing anything 10 years or older. We have put a lot of money into it recently, but it's continuously having some issues, one of which is actually I think it's a fuel issue, and it does not stay running. So, little story, I actually had to escort a state trooper for something, a matter that happened here, and it actually died in the middle of the woods with a state trooper in the passenger seat. So, imagine that wasn't just a tour, right? We're going to pick up a kid with a broken leg, or God forbid something happened down in the woods in a cross-country trail, or we have to get somebody off of a field. We can't reliably do that. It's something that we use religiously every day in the fall and spring for moving equipment to prep fields, paint machine, rake, shovels, things around the grounds. It's a pretty vital piece of equipment, and to not have something reliable can be frustrating at times.
That's the, is that the going rate for those?
That is actually a state contracted rate. That's actually $6,000 or $7,000 lower than retail.
Actually pretty cheap.
Yeah, and that specific vehicle, I did look to get a few extra features as I look to the future to maybe change some things. It is a diesel. It's an 1100. It's 4-wheel drive. It does have a cab. So inclement weather, it'll be heated and air conditioned. If we're using it out in the middle of a field and it starts raining, we'll have a cab to go to. It has a true hydraulic dump on it, so if we load it with material, we can actually hit a button and it'll dump it out. Where right now we have to actually shovel it out of the bed of the Ranger. It's going to be a true tool and workhorse for things that we do here.
So this sounds like a truck, not.
This is not. This is like a side-by-side. It's like a small utility vehicle, very similar to the Polaris Ranger that we have now.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, those are not, that's not what we're spending this year, that's something.
So, as a reminder, the priorities include district security cameras. Then second is Lyman tennis court repairs. Third is parking lot sealant, crack sealant, all of that. Fourth is the utility vehicle. Fifth is catch basin cleaning and maintenance. And sixth is district bathrooms. The other items on the list remain on the list. They're not being spent just this year. Any other questions or comments?
The seal coat is for all the schools?
Just for the high school.
Just the high school?
So
Nice.
Yes, please.
So we, a few years ago, tried to get on a cycle where each school would be done once every 3 years. Due to some budget constraints, we fell out of that cycle. We'd like to at least get the high school, which was the first of the 3 buildings that got done now 4 years ago. We'd like to get back and do that one, and then we're gonna plan for an every other year instead of an every year.
And these were reviewed and recommended by the Finance Subcommittee.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to say on the utility, because I know that's, a big item, but we did discuss and deemed that it would be if someone got hurt and we knew the vehicle was not working properly and we could not retrieve that person that was hurt and get them to safety or get what they needed, then, that could be some further repercussions upon us if we did not take care of that situation too.
No.
I think I absolutely agree with you. If something's broken, you need to have it fixed. And I know it's used, like you said, a lot, like every day. I'm just questioning the amount, because I just Googled a 2024 side-by-side four-seater. Okay, this is electric, big difference. It's $13,000. So I just am uncomfortable with the amount, the dollar amount, but I know that more research can be done. It just seems like, I've never spent that much on a car, to be honest with you. So,
Brian, and then Dawn.
This is under state contract, so it is under the minimum for what, that we can purchase it for. I will tell you that when we bought the one for the fire department, same deal, not a dump body. And this is without the slide or anything else, and it does not have heat or AC. That was about $37,000. So.
This is a deal. I was just wondering if they have something like that you could get used, that maybe somebody traded in.
So a challenge with used, right, is you could end up with somebody else's problem. And not that a new vehicle can't have issues, right? You can see that with a car or a UTV or anything, right? But brand new, you end up with typically with the best warranty. It's fresh from the factory. Typically issues are caused by people operating it. So, I feel, with the state contracted price, new would probably be the way to go for us.
I agree.
For this piece of equipment, I'm not saying there isn't used pieces of equipment that we could buy in the future, but for this specific thing, I think that new is probably the best way to go.
We bought the lift used, and so we have bought other things.
Mm-hmm.
That's not as widely used as that Gator is.
No, I'm just saying that we have purchased other things used. Okay.
Any other comments? No? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Now, I tried to jump to this one before. Act on the 2025-2026 tuition rates. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the 2025-26 tuition rates. We're gonna get specific in all the A, B, and Cs.
Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Okay, thank you. Andy?
All right, so just to give you some historical information for the general education tuition for contractual sending towns, for 4 of the past 5 years, we had done a 2% increase or a 0, if you remember, kind of during COVID times. That was something many districts did. Last year, we increased by 2.5. This year, we are bringing a 3.5% increase for Basra, Sprague, and Lisbon. The reason why I list those out is because in our agreement with Franklin, we cannot do greater than 2.5. So we would do 3.5 for Basra, Sprague, and Lisbon, and 2.5 for Franklin. That is very reasonable, given all of the increases that we're seeing in our operating budget. It's a reasonable ask, and there just is something that we'll have to be mindful of. These agreements are aging and probably should be looked at by legal for revisions, and maybe that 2.5% number that's there is something that can be looked at. So that's for the general ed tuition. Staff members, we would stay at 25% of that number. And then for the special services, giving you a little bit of a historical reminder, in 2022-23 there was no increase. In 23-24 there was no increase. So last year we did a sizable increase of 10% to try to catch us up on the years where we had done nothing. So this year we are looking to do a 3.5% increase for those special services as well.
Comments or questions? And then we have Motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian. All those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Number 7, act on the new course proposal. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the new kinesiology 11 for the 25-26 school year.
Second. Motion by Nicole, seconded by, motion by Danelle. I'm typing your name, so seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Okay, and number 8, act on second reading. Just FYI, the policies start on page 52 of the packet.
I make a motion that the board approves policy numbers 4006, 6009, 5027, 6015, 6003, and 6012.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That too is unanimous. Okay. Next on the agenda is anticipated executive session. Is there a motion?
Move that we move into anticipated executive sessions for the purpose of discussing the 25-26 unaffiliated salaries with the superintendent.
Motion is to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing 2025-2026 unaffiliated salaries, inviting the superintendent.
I second.
Are we going to, I'm so sorry, are we going to be coming out and then back in?
Yes, because then he'll leave.
Okay.
Okay, so, I'm sorry.
He second.
So motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian, thank you. Get so distracted so easily. All those in favor, please raise your hand to enter into executive session. That is unanimous. And we will hit stop recording, correct?
Yeah.
Did Jock go back there already?
I think the lights are out.
He's not hiding over here now. He's not hiding over here.
There he is.
We're off?